But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you?
If politics teaches us anything, it's that your so-called allies can roast you even harder than your opponents. And Gavin Newsom just got a front row seat to that lesson. Because when Bill Maher, a guy who once openly praised him, starts tearing into your leadership, it's a sign your political ship is sinking fast. And this wasn't some casual dig either. This was Maher going full flamethrower mode on the California governor's polished image, roasting him live on TV without a hint of restraint. The harsh part, Maher didn't just shred Newsom's policies. He attacked his persona, his ambition, and even boiled his entire political legacy down to one painfully hollow compliment. He only looks like he could handle it.
Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, home to 12% of all Americans and 50% of all Mexicans. On the upside, Newsom is the only governor, with the possible exception of Kristi Noem, who looks like they could do
Yikes. Imagine running the most powerful state in the nation, only to have your greatest achievement summed up as, well, at least you look good. But honestly, doesn't that perfectly capture Newsom's leadership? California holds more wealth, more resources, and more innovation than almost anywhere else on the planet. Yet, under his watch, it's become the ultimate example of everything wrong with progressive policies. Homelessness is exploding, crime keeps climbing, businesses are packing up and leaving, and the taxes, high enough to make your bank account weep. Instead of tackling any of that, Newsom's big headline-worthy move is gender-neutral toy aisles. You can't make this up. And that's where Bill Maher went straight for the jugular, comparing being governor of California to being Britney Spears' conservator. Translation?
I don't want to say he really wants to be the guy who steps in if the current nominee goes down, but he gets an alert on his phone every time Biden can't think of a word. The downside is that governor of California is kind of like being conservator for Britney Spears.
It's basically a never-ending disaster that nobody wants to claim responsibility for. And that's not just a joke, that's a brutal takedown when running one of the wealthiest states in the world gets compared to managing a celebrity. Meltdown. You know something is seriously broken, but let's break this down because Maher wasn't just going for laughs. He was spotlighting the reality most Californians already see every day. Take homelessness, for instance. California has practically rolled out the red carpet for it. Free services, soft laws, and almost zero enforcement against street camping. It's practically an open invitation. And guess what? When you make street living easy, more people but choose the streets. Instead of taking a firm, realistic approach, Newsom's policies turned sidewalks into tent cities and entire neighborhoods into makeshift shelters. Compassion over chaos? Absolutely.
Attack him on California's homeless problem, but there's a response to that. The homeless can live anywhere, but they choose California.
And then there's crime. The same ugly pattern. California has turned into a haven not for law-abiding citizens, but for criminals. Smash a storefront and you'll be lucky to get more than a warning. Loot thousands in merchandise, and odds are you'll be back on the streets before sunset. That's not justice. That's chaos wrapped in the language of progress. And while Newsom and his allies pat themselves on the back for being compassionate, everyday Californians are stuck living with the fallout. Higher crime, unsafe neighborhoods, and a rapidly eroding quality of life. But here's the kicker. California isn't just drowning in crime and homelessness. It's bleeding people. Fast. Big corporations, high-profile names, and middle-class families are packing up and sprinting for the exit. Elon Musk? Gone. Joe Rogan? Gone. Countless businesses? Gone. And why? Because Newsom's economic policies have turned the state into a playground only billionaires can afford. Sky-high taxes, endless red tape, and crushing living costs have strangled the middle class. Once California was the land of opportunity, now it's the land of escape. And the irony cuts deep. With its wealth, stunning landscapes, global entertainment hub, and world-leading tech, California should be the crown jewel of prosperity. Instead, it's a cautionary tale of what happens when polished speeches take the place of real leadership. And now, even Bill Maher is saying out loud what millions have been whispering for years. Gavin Newsom is all style, no substance. That's the reality of Newsom.
Of course, the knock on Gavin has always been that he's slick. Yeah, you know what? I'm okay with that. I notice slick is something no one has been accusing Biden of lately. Do you want good at talking or don't you? Newsom is the best communicator in the party with a history of standing up to bullies, and his name lends itself to the best slogan since I Like Ike. I'm having Gavin.
He's smooth, he's charming, he's polished, he's practically a walking campaign poster, and for a while that act worked. He could wow a crowd, deliver speeches that sounded scripted by Hollywood, and sidestep tough questions with nothing more than a grin. But here's the catch. Charm doesn't build affordable housing, slick talk doesn't bring down crime, a nice smile doesn't keep businesses from leaving your state. Eventually, real leadership demands more than good looks and clever spin. And guess what? Voters are starting to figure it out, not just Republicans, Democrats too. Bill Maher even shared a story about being on a progressive African-American owned radio station where the host flat out said Newsom is too progressive to win a national race. And that jab didn't come from conservatives. It came from his own political circle.
I was on KBLA yesterday, with my friend Tavis Smiley. I'm an investor and a supporter of that station. And he said, who do you want for running president? I mentioned, I think you'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think.
When your biggest supporters start branding you unelectable, you've got a serious problem. And here's the kicker. Newsom knows it. That's why he's always trying to frame himself as the guy ready to step in if Biden stumbles. He's got his eyes on the presidency, no matter how much he tries to deny it. But deep down, even he has to see the reality. If he can't effectively run California, what on earth makes him think he can run the entire country? And then there's the woke circus, the part where Newsom really loses people. Bill Maher nailed it when he roasted California's law requiring toy stores with over 500 employees to create gender-neutral sections.
Look at the swing states. There's only 8 of them.
Right. Well, I mean, California is an interesting case study, isn't it? It's the size of 21 state populations combined.
Yeah.
2/3 of the state is very deeply red. We don't need to be lectured on rural politics or border issues. I mean, in so many ways, these are familiar issues, and the issues of the heartland of the United States are very much a part and parcel of the work we're doing in this state. But look, I understand this notion that you're from the coast, you don't understand those things. You can't talk the language. You're not able to communicate, and you're not able to actually encourage and find that common ground.
It's stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department. Stuff like that.
Seriously, this is where the government chooses to spend its time and energy. While homelessness explodes and crime keeps climbing, because apparently kids can't just play with toys anymore. They have to make a political statement while doing it. It's absurd, it's tone deaf, and it's exactly why voters everywhere roll their eyes at politicians like Newsom. Think about it. Families are fighting just to pay rent. Neighborhoods are grappling with rising crime. Small businesses are collapsing under crushing taxes and endless regulations. And Newsom's big contribution, making sure Barbie and Hot Wheels share the same shelf. That's not leadership. That's pandering to the woke crowd while ignoring the real problems people desperately need solved.
Too much government there.
That's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that. And they were the ones making a case for that. They were making us. They're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind.
And then there's the water crisis. Almost laughable if it weren't so serious. Nearly 80% of California's water supply goes straight to agriculture, and a huge portion of that is funneled into growing almonds. Do you know how much water it takes to produce just 1 pound of almonds? Over 1,900